The containment field flickered once, twice, then died with a sound like breaking glass. Lyra's fingers slipped from the control panel as her knees buckled beneath her. The neural shock from the overload rippled through her body in waves, each one more violent than the last. Her vision blurred, the sterile white walls of the research station bleeding into smears of light and shadow. She had known the risk. Everyone on Threshold Station knew the risk. But someone had to stabilize the quantum reactor before it tore a hole through 3 dimensions, and Lyra Chun had always been the one who ran toward danger rather than away from it. It was what made her human. It was what made her foolish. The floor met her shoulder with bruising force. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard the distant wail of evacuation alarms. Good. The others were getting out. The station groaned around her, metal screaming as reality itself began to fray at the edges. Hairline fractures spread across her skin like frost on glass, the visible sign of dimensional destabilization at the cellular level. Her body was literally coming apart at the seams. Lyra tried to move, but her muscles wouldn't respond. The cracks spread further, glowing faintly with an otherworldly blue light. She could feel herself fragmenting, consciousness scattering like stars. This was how it ended, then. Not with glory, but alone on a cold floor while the universe unmade her piece by piece. Then she heard them. The sound came first as a distant thunder, then resolved into something impossible. Footsteps. Multiple sets, running toward the reactor chamber, not away from it. Through her fading vision, Lyra saw the doorway explode inward in a shower of sparks and molten metal. They poured through the gap like liquid death. Rin led the pack. Even through her deteriorating sight, Lyra recognized the young Koresh's distinctive silver-striped fur and the way he moved, all coiled muscle and predatory grace. Behind him came 6 more of his kind, each one a masterwork of evolution's cruelest intentions. The Koresh were apex predators from a world where nothing died of old age because something always ate you first. 3 meters tall, covered in armored scales beneath their fur, with jaws that could crush titanium and claws that could carve through starship hulls. The galaxy had learned to fear the Koresh. Every species had. Every species except humans. Lyra. Rin's voice was a resonant growl that vibrated through the floor. He hit the ground beside her in a crouch, his massive frame making her look like a broken doll. The heat from the destabilizing reactor turned the air into a shimmering hell's cape, but he didn't flinch. Behind him, the other cubs, barely adults by Koresh standards, formed a defensive perimeter, their amber eyes scanning for threats that weren't coming. "You need to leave," Lyra managed, each word feeling like swallowing glass. Reactor, going critical. Rin's muzzle pulled back, exposing rows of serrated teeth in what might have been a smile or a snarl. Humans have a saying. "Over my dead body." I believe that is appropriate here. His clawed hand, each finger tipped with obsidian-sharp talons, moved with impossible gentleness as he slipped it beneath her shoulders. The touch should have terrified her. 6 months ago, when the Koresh cubs first arrived at the station as part of the interspecies research exchange, it would have. The entire human crew had walked on eggshells around them. These beings who came from a world where mercy was a foreign concept and weakness was a death sentence. But Lyra had seen something others missed. She'd watched Rin spend hours in the observation deck, staring at Earth's ocean footage with an expression of wonder that transcended species. She'd found him in the greenhouse at night, carefully tending to the roses she'd planted, his deadly claws learning delicacy to avoid crushing the petals. She'd taught him to laugh, really laugh, at human jokes that made no logical sense, but somehow bridged the gap between their worlds. And now he was lifting her, cradling her fragmenting body against his armored chest as the world came apart around them. "The radiation," she whispered. "It'll kill you." "Perhaps." Rin turned, and the other cubs fell in around him, forming a living shield. "But you taught us something, Lyra Chun. You humans taught us that survival is not the only thing worth fighting for." The reactor chamber had become an inferno. Plasma fires erupted from ruptured conduits, painting everything in shades of amber and crimson. The dimensional tiers grew wider, reality warping in ways that made the eye ache to witness. The Koresh ran through it all, their superior physiology allowing them to endure temperatures and radiation that would have vaporized most species. but even they had limits. Lyra felt Rin's muscles trembling with strain, heard the pained snarls of the cubs as the heat seared through their fur. They were dying for her. These predators, these monsters from a nightmare world, were burning themselves alive to save one fragile human. What? The question escaped her lips as consciousness threatened to slip away entirely to Rin's eyes, those alien, amber eyes that had seen 1,000 hunts and countless deaths, met hers. And in them, she saw something that defied every xenobiological report ever written about his species. "Because you sat with me when the nightmares came," he said softly. "Because you shared your music when I could not sleep. Because when my brood brother died on our home world, you did not offer logic or solutions. You simply cried with me." His grip tightened, protective and impossibly gentle. "Because you are my friend, Lyra Chun. And we do not leave our friends to die alone." The emergency bulkhead loomed ahead, beyond the curtain of fire. Two of the cubs leaped forward, their claws tearing through the warped metal like paper. Fresh air rushed in from the evacuation corridor beyond. Cool, clean, and promising survival. Rin didn't slow. He burst through the opening with Lyra pressed against him, the other cubs following in a streak of singed fur and determination. Behind them, the reactor chamber collapsed inward with a sound like reality sobbing. They made it to the medical bay with seconds to spare. The station's emergency systems finally kicked in, flooding the dying reactor with quantum foam that would buy the evacuation ship's precious minutes. Human medics swarmed Lyra, their instruments already working to stabilize her cellular structure, but she kept her eyes on Rin. The young Koresh stood at the bay entrance, his fur scorched, his scales cracked, burns covering half his body. He should have been in agony, but he was smiling, really smiling, in that way she taught him. "Rest now, friend," he rumbled. "We have you." As the medical nanites began knitting her body back together, Lyra felt tears streaming down her fractured cheeks. The galaxy called humanity weak, soft, unsuited for the harsh realities of the cosmos. They were prey animals playing at being explorers, but humanity had always possessed one superweapon that no other species could match. Not strength or speed or natural armor. Not even their much-vaunted adaptability. Was this. The ability to see the person behind the predator. To offer friendship without condition. To teach mercy to those who'd never known it. And to inspire loyalty so fierce that even apex predators would run through fire rather than let a friend die alone. Lyra smiled back at Rin through her tears. Her body might have been shattering, but her spirit, and the bonds she'd forged, remained unbreakable. That was the human way. And perhaps, just perhaps, it was becoming the Koresh way too.